1 year ago, I made a video about a Skyblock hobby of mine, collecting Seymour armor, and it turns out I wasn't the only one who enjoyed collecting, soon finding myself amongst a community of players who did just that. And over the past year since joining that community, so much has happened, and some of the events that took place were genuinely insane. So this is my story, how over 3,000 players and I spent the last year hunting for the rarest obtainable armor in hypixelskyblock. Let's go back to the beginning. Sort of. You see, I'd actually been collecting Seymour armor for 3 to 4 months before this point, thinking I was the only player doing it and making up my own methods of sorting pieces. And if you haven't seen the first video, you're probably quite confused as to why players collect it in the first place, or what even is Seymour armor. Let me quickly explain. Seymour armor is given by the Seymour Garden visitor, and can be either a velvet top hat, cashmere jacket, satin trousers, or Oxford shoes, which he dyes a random colour. Players collect, or should I say hoard, enormous amounts of armor in the hopes to get a cool hex code, a duplicate pair, a hex close to a Skyblock armor set or die, and so on. Before discovering the community of collectors, I was alone, doing everything my own way. Very inefficiently, and I was only interested in finding duplicate pairs and sorted the pieces by the first 3 digits using a chest grid labeled with the first 2 digits and a custom texture pack I made to add a 3rd digit inside the chests. It was actually before October, in July that year, when I got my first ever dupe pair, and on the 19th of October I got my 2nd dupe pair. But they were the same piece. October 24th was the day I joined the server, Seymour Cafe, and over the coming weeks I learnt a lot, not only about all the crazy collections and pieces I had no idea existed, but the way collectors dramatically reduce the amount of manual input required when sorting pieces. Players are also able to buy and sell pieces here to help each other collect the pieces they want. Early November is when I found the item mod, developed by TG Waffles or Thomas for collectors of rare items, and it included some helpful Seymour features. Its Seymour features included a valuable piece indicator, search and highlight feature, and most importantly, a scan and export feature. New terms were also introduced to me. The item mod uses delta or visual distance to classify a piece's worth. A delta of 0 to 1.999 is considered a tier 1 piece. 2 to 4.999 is considered tier 2, and beyond that 5 to 9.999 is tier 3, which tier 3 and onward no one really cares about. Nothing else really happened this month. It was really a lot of me figuring out how all this new mod stuff worked with Excel, and it was also my exam season. Yay! Using an export, I was able to completely ditch my in-game sorting system of stacks of chests and move fully to an Excel spreadsheet. This is where I developed my own methods of sorting pieces. I actually still have my original exports and data from all the way back then in my current Excel document. As you can see, my first few sorting attempts were not that great. I ran into many issues with formatting, and as the months went by, I added more cool features like making the cells the same color and showing the AX, BX, CX codes. However, this is still nothing compared to what you'll see later. On the 12th of December, Budaclin, a high-level Skyblock collector with almost 20,000 pieces, obtained an exact hex secret dyed chestplate, one of the very few exact hexes known to exist. Also, a Seymour guild was created by Bacon Pickle. Bacon Pickle is the owner of Seymour Cafe and has a very impressive collection. Admittedly, it wasn't very active and only had about 20 members and would stay like this for many months. On New Year's Eve of 2024, I won my first ever set of the week, which is a weekly competition Bacon Pickle hosted on Seymour Cafe with a small cash prize. By January of 2025, I had amassed around 3,000 pieces, sorted in this enormous chest monster on my island. The Discord community was hovering at around 300 members and was decently active. With the start of a new year, it was during this month that I decided to begin clipping or screenshotting every Seymour purchase I made, so I can track how much money I'm spending. Now I have a black piece. That's pretty cool. I decided to only track trades since auction purchases were mostly bulk pieces for an average price of around 200,000 coins, which I can work out without having to document it. For the community, some crazy pieces that were found were most notably a repeating hex and 2-digit hex. A player by the name of Co-op Luke was posting tons of colourful AX, BX, CX sets, and Bacon Pickle bought a chestplate from Ben Clark with the hex code 00007 for 5 billion coins. Remember Bacon Pickle, he's going to be very prominent later in the video. It was also in early January that I got my own museum on the server. For me, most of the month was spent editing the original Seymour video, which I posted on my channel on the 16th of January last year. Budaclin also built a museum on his island, displaying his crazy amounts of sets. In addition to this, I spent a lot of coins myself on pieces, with the most notable purchase being a cashmere jacket with the hex 0AAAAA. Which I paid 350 mil for. The January coins spent total comes to 539 mil. What a month. February came and went quite quickly. I kept buying pieces and was able to get my hands on some quadruple digit pieces, which back then I was pretty stoked about. Ever so slowly, I was digging into my G-Drag bank to buy Seymour pieces, which is a bad habit I would repeat a lot. Having a half G-Drag bank for long periods of time got pretty normal for me, but I was okay with it as long as I didn't do anything that required a full bank like Cujo and Dungeons. I exported and sorted my bulk pieces twice during this month and continued to refine my Excel sorting process. If you didn't know, the first, third and fifth digits in a hex code have 16 times the weight as the second, fourth and sixth digits, basically meaning they alter the color the most. To build matching sets, the term AX, BX, CX was introduced. If the first, third and fifth hexes were the same across each piece in the set and the others were random, there was a good chance the set would look good. Knowing this, I wanted a way to not only sort for duplicates, but also for clusters of pieces with the same AX, BX, CX patterns. So I implemented a function in a column to the right of my export to serve this exact purpose. I did a similar thing when trying to find pieces close to in-game armor and dies, matching the AX, BX, CX pattern. This approach wasn't the best, but it's all I could really come up with in Excel for the time being. By the end of February, I had amassed 4,458 pieces. Unfortunately, however, during February, Budaclin, famous Seymour collector with over 20,000 pieces and an exact hex, was wiped. Hellcastle and Tyler made a video on the situation, which is linked in the description. If you're watching this, Budaclin, I hope you're doing well. During the month of February, the most notable Seymour pieces I bought were 2 tier 2 white pieces for 135 mil. The total February spend comes to 581 mil, bringing my total so far this year to 1.12 bill. March was a pretty packed month in terms of expanding my own collection. I spent a lot of coins on pieces and also expanded the physical museum on my island, increasing its capacity and reorganizing some sections. During the month of March, I also received my first donation from a player called Wob, who donated a tier 1 Great Spook piece to my museum. A player called Jessbre, or just Jess for short, became the first person to get a full tier 1 Sangria die set. The reason why this set was special is because it took 9 months from the release of the Sangria die to complete the set. They ended up spending over 500 million coins and would also obtain the server's first exact Sangria die piece. And void it 5 months later, but that's besides the point. This month I spent and bought a ton of pieces. In total I spent 904 mil, bringing the year total to over 2 billion coins spent. For April Fools, Bacon wrote an essay about quitting, and the first person to finish the Easter egg hunt on his island would receive his entire collection, which fooled one person. Apart from this, I didn't do much Seymour stuff and nothing really happened in the community either. However, the Discord server did reach 3,000 members, which is a pretty big milestone. One thing I do want to mention is sniping. AH sniping. AH sniping Seymour can be done in a couple different ways. You can have hotkeys set up on your keyboard so that when you click them it brings up the auction house. Hover over all the pieces and see if there's any valuable hexes. Me personally, I like to set up buttons that when I can click, my mouse is already close to all the pieces. Later on, mods are developed that actually highlight the valuable hexes. ItsKays was a player who was notorious for sniping Seymour armor off the auction house before anyone else, and he was later found out that he was macroing and he was banned from the Seymour Cafe server. Throughout April, I only bought 2 pieces totaling 35 mil. This brings the year total to 2.159 bill. I finished expanding my museum, which now had enough room for all the different Skyblock armor sets and dies to be on display. I decided to make the blue clay represent tier 2 pieces and pink clay to represent tier 1 pieces. I also created a new profile to farm Seymour armor. How it works is if you unlock the garden without talking to any NPCs except Seymour and Jerry from the garden quest, only Jerry and Seymour can visit your garden. This means you can just leave Jerry, or up to 4 NPCs in fact, to AFK permanently on your garden, making Seymour have a 100% chance to visit you. I decided to start a new profile and set out to unlock the garden and get Skyblock level 7, talking to as few NPCs as possible, since if I go beyond the 5 NPC limit, just having 1 extra visitor would halve my rates. I just need to farm a bunch of wheat to get a bunch of seeds so that I can make my first plot on my garden. After unlocking the garden and getting Skyblock level 7, all I had to do was unlock the Seymour visitor, who requires a garden level of 4. Pretty much all I needed to do was clear some plots, plant the base crops, and farm a bit to level up crop milestones. So that's what I did. Whoa, 42 Skyblock XP. Oh my days. Damn. Forgot what it was like to be on a new profile again. I farmed wheat, getting wheat milestone 7, and sucked up a bunch of pests, getting around milestone 6 for most crops, which got me to garden milestone 4. Seymour's visiting, you know what time it is. Bang, nothing. Now that Seymour could visit me, I needed to farm for the items to trade with him. Seymour only accepts pumpkins, so I built a small pumpkin farm, using enchanted pumpkins to trade with Seymour when he visited me, and using the excess to craft pumpkin minions. By the way, some items that made the grind really useful was the agronomy sack and farmer or rancher's boots, which I crafted once I unlocked the crafting recipe. I ended up talking to Jerry, Seymour, and the librarian as planned, and accidentally talked to the adventurer, but that doesn't matter since I'm still under the 5 NPC limit. So for now, I was able to just log on every day and collect a couple pieces from Seymour for free. So choose all my days. All my days. Well, there's one final detail I haven't talked about. I needed coins to spend on enchanted pumpkins, which is what Seymour asked for in return for a piece. So I set up buy orders for random cheap turbo books, crafted them all up, got RNG carried with a dedication book on my 33rd librarian. Damn, 40 million coins. Sold all the Turbo 5 books and boom, money was no longer a problem. However, I wasn't the only player making profiles to farm Seymour pieces. One player in the community in fact had 4 Seymour profiles. I'll talk about them a bit later on. Throughout the month of May, I accepted 43 Seymour visitors. The tier 2 Reaper piece worth about 30 million coins and this cool hex were the only Seymour pieces I got worth mentioning.
Ooh. Oh wait, that's actually pretty cool.
The Seymour video I had posted in January reached 50,000 views, and my first ever video to reach that milestone. This was super cool. Sort of related to Seymour, I got my first spaceman visitor on my main profile. He's still standing there today. On the 25th of May, I was able to complete my first tier 1 die set, being Frostbitten die, which I was quite happy about. In late May, a 7 of pure black piece was found and sold to Alljack for 300 million coins. In May, I spent 396 mil on Seymour armor during the month, bringing the year total to 2.555 billion coins. To start off the month, out of nowhere, the player KV12 decided to gift me all of their bulk Seymour armor, which was very generous of them. I continued grinding my Seymour profile, getting 30 more Seymour pieces. Unfortunately, Finnegan was a mayor which stuffed up the profile since he adds a bunch of visitors which keep replacing Seymour. I also added my mate over into the co-op and he helped me bazaar flip for coins and collect Seymour pieces from the garden. I also got my best AH snipe so far, buying an almost pure black chestplate for lowest bin. In June I spent 252 mil on Seymour armor, bringing the year total to 2.807 bill. I was able to buy these paired and repeating pieces, making a neat collection of hexes made of 7s and 0s. July, I didn't play much Skyblock in general since I was on holidays, so there isn't much for me to talk about. I sniped a tier 2 Reaper piece and traded a bunch of my bulk for tier 2s that I didn't have. I bought a couple of pieces during this month amounting to 35 mil, bringing the year total to 2.841 bill. Early this month, I dropped my first ever overgrown grass on my main profile, having accepted over 2,000 visitors. On the 15th of August, the owner of Seymour Cafe and well-renowned collector Bacon Pickle announced he was quitting. For real this time. He said he would distribute his collection to the community and made a post with a list of all the pieces in his collection and which ones were undecided. The post was designed so people could say which pieces they collect and then he could decide whether or not he wanted to give someone that piece. During August, I bought some Seymour pieces, most of which in a big trade with, I don't even know how to pronounce that name, Sackolo88. I spent 384 mil in August, bringing the year's total to 3.225 bill. I was able to complete a full tier 2 exotic black set and the fishing armor section of my museum. It was also during August that I began thinking about making another Seymour video, the one you're watching right now. Also, during August, an exact hex FF00FF satin trousers were listed on AH for lowest bin. Can you guess what happened? Either A, they were bought by a collector, B, the person delisted them because they realized it was worth something, or C, it was just bought by a random person. That's right, it was D. They got sniped by an AH bot who got wiped 40 minutes later. RIP to one of the rarest pieces in existence. In September, I started work on a big project of mine. Excel was great for sorting hexes and searching for specific things like duplicates, but I wanted to be able to see more. See what I did there? Anyways, using ChatGPT, I started coding my own Seymour app. My goal was to have a desktop application that, for an export of my collection, is able to sort tier 2 and tier 1 pieces, special hexes, build close sets, and have an auction house scanning feature. Progress was going well for about a week until my ChatGPT chat got so long and laggy it was unusable. I decided to switch from using ChatGPT to Gemini Code Assistant in VS Code. I worked on it on and off throughout the month, fixing bugs and implementing new features. The AH scanning feature was working by now, and using a Discord webhook, I received pings whenever a good piece, or piece close to any of my other pieces in a database, was listed on the auction house. I also got the cluster scanner to work, enabling me to start putting together some really cool sets, and make a bounty for all the pieces I needed to complete some sets. Oh, and remember how Bacon Pickle was quitting? Well, weeks had gone by without word from Bacon Pickle regarding his pieces, and on the 20th of September, I got a message. A player called NetherPortal3 contacted me saying, "Hello, I have a bunch of interesting Seymour and heard you might be interested. I might have some of the best pieces in the game." He had them, every single one of Bacon Pickle's crazy pieces, including the iconic 111111 pants, the 7 chest plate, multiple exact hexes, and countless insanely close tier 1 pieces. This was the Cryptstone collection equivalent, but in Seymour armor. Then it hit me. How on earth did this player get these pieces? A few scenarios went through my mind. Either he knew him in real life, Bacon was ratted, or Bacon IRL'd out. So I asked him. He said he could neither confirm nor deny whether he IRL'd them. But taking one look at his Discord bio, I immediately noticed an MFA's link, which is basically a link to advertise something. In this case, all his IRL trading achievements. So now it was apparent that Bacon had IRL'd out, going against everything he had promised to the community. He even said at one point that he had considered IRLing and decided not to, because the money would help with his college. The amount he IRL traded for would be revealed later, but for now, I wasn't mad, I was disappointed. Now obviously NetherPortal was seeking to liquidate Bacon's pieces to then, I assume, sell for a profit for more IRL money, so they made a selling post on Seymour Cafe. The community went crazy. Finally, Bacon's pieces were surfacing, listed on one of NetherPortal's alt accounts, NetherPortal5, for 14 days, and everyone was given a chance to bid. Some of the less valuable pieces were actually given away and distributed amongst collectors, like Bacon's original intentions, by NetherPortal, which was pretty kind of him. So, the countdown began, 14 days until the pieces sold on auction. 14 days to grind as many coins as possible, and 14 days to predict how high the pieces would go. Players were getting excited about finally being able to bid and hopefully own some of these pieces they had only dreamed about owning. Orjack, a player with the most impressive shades collection on the server, had his eyes fixed on the number 7 piece. However, grinding coins, especially a lot of coins in a short amount of time, isn't as easy as it sounds. For Orjack, a lot of his net worth was tied up in exotics and other collectibles. And if there's one thing to know about exotics, it's that they are much harder to sell for good prices than buy. Anyways, September came to an end, and a player called Uzi gifted me all of their bulk Seymour, which was very kind of them. In total this month, I didn't spend any coins on Seymour trades, meaning the year total remains the same. October had arrived, and boy, this would be an eventful month. After a lot of thought, I decided I would not bid on any of Bacon's pieces. I didn't want to get involved in any trades and auctions linked with the IRL, so I would only be spectating the auction's conclusion. As the auction day edged closer and closer, and the bids went higher and higher, I was beginning to question the ethics of this situation. Really, the only people benefiting are Bacon and NetherPortal. The community are the ones missing out, and are the ones contributing to the IRL trading business. We were the ones who were promised the pieces for free. Sure, they are Bacon's pieces and he can do with them whatever he likes, but it's just unfortunate it has led to the top collectors having to outbid each other like this. But finally, the day arrived. These 7 players were the most dedicated, bidding hundreds of millions of coins, some billions. 2 prominent spenders stood out, Ali Me and PKLM. PKLM is number 2 in the server for Pumpkin Collection, and also has a really impressive Seymour armor collection. Ali Me, on the other hand, kinda came out of nowhere. They had bought and sniped Seymour before, but it was safe to say they had never spent this kind of money on Seymour armor, unlike PK, who had already bought billion coin pieces. Orjack and BQ were also very invested in the auction. Orjack had his eyes set on the black chestplate and dark grey leggings. BQ, a prominent collector of just about anything, was bidding high on, well, just about everything. The remaining 3 players were interested in the better pieces as well, but with a surplus of buyers, not everyone would get what they wanted. As the time ticked lower and lower, and the bids went higher and higher, the winners were shortly defined.
civil rights, you demand that I eternize your name. Walk ahead. You cover us in shame and I take the blame. Living by the rules to which
This guy with his 1.2 bill purse. Well, he's still bidding.
beginners keep provoking.
Damn, so rich.
Hundreds of thirst choking. Can anyone stand this nonsense? Eaten away.
Well, looks like this one's ending. Damn, GG, PKLM, 3.1 billion coins. Now at this point, out of the most sought after pieces being the exact hexes, Bacon's pants, and his chest plate, all but the chest plate had sold, and now it came down to a bidding war between BQ and Ali Me.
Now every new day's a new firearm to my teeth, call me a liar.
Well, that's all of BQ's money spent. Now it's just down to Ali Me. Ali Me SB just bid 4 billion coins on the hashtag 7 chest plate.
Beginners keep provoking. Hundreds of thirst choking. Can anyone stand this nonsense? Eaten away. Telling us to stop and obey. To stop and obey. When this goes wrong, do you know what you wish for?
Ali Me had won Bacon's 2 most valuable pieces, costing over 6 billion coins, and instead of adding them to his collection, he threw them into the void. When the news broke, players were furious, but also confused. Why would Ali just throw away 6 billion coins like that, and take away those pieces from the community? Wasn't what Bacon did to start with enough? I wanted to get some answers, so I visited him. At first, I thought he was trolling and didn't actually void them, but no, they're gone for sure. Ali told me what he did wasn't an attack on the community, but on Bacon. He reasoned that destroying the pieces Bacon Pickle loved the most was worth not only the insane amount of coins spent, but also the impact it would have on the community. He wanted to send a message to Bacon. He didn't want anyone to own the IRL pieces either, and said one day he would make it up. Ali was punished with a temporary trade ban, and likely due to guilt, PK also quietly voided the pieces she won. Oh yeah, can you guess the amount Bacon IRL'd his entire collection worth 12 billion coins for? A whopping $200. Honestly though, I don't really care about this situation anymore. The past is in the past, so please don't try contacting Bacon or Nether Portal. It's been months since everything happened, people have moved on. Throughout October, I was able to make very good progress on my Seymour app. It was pretty much doing everything I had envisioned at the start with only a few minor bugs, and decided to leave it at that. I completed a super clean Ice Seymour set, which actually remains my favorite set I own today. Ali Me also got his temporary ban removed later in the month and received his own museum. Why, you may be asking? Remember how he said he would make it up to the community one day? Well, he developed a public Seymour mod which had a lot of features and more customizability than the item mod, which hadn't received an update since May. It had its own in-game database, checklist, piece highlighting, and info box. And to top it all off, if October wasn't an insane month already, a player by the name of Sickener found someone with a piece 1 off pure black. As of now, the piece still hasn't sold and is sitting at a current offer of 3 billion coins. During October, I spent 116 mil on Seymour, bringing the year's grand total to 3.341 bill. One reason why I toned back my spending is that using my notifier I was sniping pieces I needed, which saved me coins. The best snipe I got during October was a tier 1 pumpkin chestplate, which was also a paired hex. I also finally completed my crystal collection, buying the final piece off of Cam. If you account for random pieces I bought off the auction house, averaging at 200,000 coins per, another 1.5 billion coins can be added to the total, bringing me to almost 5 billion coins spent. That marks 1 year of being in the Seymour collecting community, and there are just 2 months left in 2025, so I might as well just cover them in this video. I wouldn't be counting coins spent in November and December since they are outside the 1 year total, so just keep that in mind. Now, I'd been receiving random bulk and buying bulk from farmers for a while, but the trade I did on the 26th of November was quite something. I got my first ever 1-of-1 exact hex, matching Fermento boots. After over a year, I finally got my first exact hex. I was so happy about this, and you can come visit my island and see it on display in my museum. You know that Seymour profile I was playing on earlier? Well, a player by the name of Seymour Gling, he made 4 of them. That's right, 4. He told me each profile took about 2 hours to set up, and across the 4, for 3 of them, he logged on every hour or so to get a couple pieces from Seymour, and on his main he farmed throughout the day, yielding 3 to 5 Seymours an hour. Throughout 2025, he accepted nearly 2,500 Seymour visitors, meaning 2,500 Seymour pieces. The best pieces he got were tier 2 black and 5 off pure red. By investing the coins earned by selling the Seymour pieces, Seymour Gling was able to reach over 2.5 billion coins across their profiles. That's some dedication. Oh, and they also dropped 20 dedication 4 books from over 5,000 librarian visits. Furthermore, during November, the YouTuber Mash Clash joined Seymour Cafe on November 30th, who said he wanted to make a video about Seymour, and in early December they posted a daily dose of hypixelskyblock video on their main channel where he talked about Bacon's 111111 leggings that got voided. The video was a good watch, but sadly was later unlisted. December was a big month for hypixelskyblock, primarily with the introduction of Mare Aura. Mare Aura didn't directly buff Seymour collecting, but more players were active than usual, resulting in some pretty cool pieces being found. Shortly after the introduction of Mare Aura, the Greenhouse update released, and this definitely buffed Seymour collecting by bringing in a ton more pieces. Also, an item called the Bachelor's Rose was added, which can be used once per day to invite any NPC to your garden. Essentially, Seymour gambling. Don't do it though, it's a scam. And that's about it for December, the year, and this video. To close the year off, a livid dye exact hex was found by Cam. What a way to end 2025. If you have enjoyed the video, please do subscribe and like the video. I really put my all into this video and project as a whole, learning new software and editing techniques. I've linked the Seymour Discord server in the description and pinned comment, and will do my best to keep it updated as it changes. I also have my own Discord server that I rarely mention, which you're all welcome to join too, in which I mainly just do upload pings and answer your questions. But anyways, that's it for this video. Bye.
I've got a match. First one so far. Bro, why? There's no way. I found identical pieces. They're both chest plates.